Hey there. So, name of the game is moves based upon this. This is triquetra versus pendulum. Or is it? Well, I don't take issue with the pendulum side of things. This, any which way you slice it, is definitely a pendulum. The poi is always at the mercy of gravity and never really goes over the hand. Triquetra side of things, however, there's a couple things that are slightly off about this triquetra. And the first clue to this should be the fact that as we're taking the top pedal up and over, we have a situation wherein we have what looks like a straight mass, and really the poi look like they're going split time, same direction, across the top of the circle, right? Specifically, we have the poi in our triquetra hand going straight up and down a single axis, while the poi in the pendulum hand is going straight across the horizontal axis, right? Well, anybody who's spent 5 minutes playing with antispins and staff probably knows that to get that kind of effect, what's really happening is, rather than doing a full antispin pedal of the type that we're used to, which looks like a loop, these are straight lines back and forth, right? Now, if we're doing a straight line back and forth up top, what exactly are we doing down below in order to get that 3-pedal feeling? Well, as it turns out, we're doing the bottom 2 pedals of a 4-pedal antispin flower. The quote-unquote triquetra in this hybrid is basically a pasted together bottom 4-pedal antispin box mode flower and the top of a 2-pedal antispin flower. 2-pedal, when done with a hand path radius of 1 poi length, is pretty stable. This is what we like to call a cat eye. And at 2 poi lengths, it becomes a little less stable. It becomes something called a linear isolation. Part of what makes it so unstable is that as it goes down, acceleration due to gravity has more time to mess with it than it does in any other antispin flower that we play with. The longer something can go straight down, the faster it is going. Ergo, when we get to the bottom, we have a lot of acceleration to deal with. So, in this particular pattern, when we get to the bottom, switching into that box mode 4-pedal antispin flower actually stabilizes the move, because it gives the poi much longer to go to absorb that acceleration than it would if we were just doing it as the 2-pedal. So, what we had, the path of this winds up looking a little bit like a cock and balls, where we've got a straight line up and down and a pair of flower petals below it. Okay, so it doesn't look like a perfect triquetra, but, you know, who am I to be Scrooge and say that it's not? Well, it could be. In the grand scheme of things, the words that we use to define these things don't matter so much to me. But if we take this concept of essentially stitching together 2 flowers, we can take it to some other pretty fun places, such as, what if instead of mixing together a 2-pedal and a 4-pedal, we mix together a 3-pedal, we're actually going to use triquetra this time, and a 6-pedal. The key here is that each of these transitions I'm making are from one flower to the flower that has double the number of petals, right? So if I'm going to switch from a triquetra to a 6-pedal, a great place to do so is in between any 2 petals of the triquetra. So right here, I'm adding an additional pedal pointed straight down, which is in the opposite position as the pedal that points straight up on the other end of the triquetra. Wouldn't be here otherwise, right? As you can see, there's nothing wrong with that. Looks quite nice. You could make the argument that this has now become a 4-pedal antispin, but I would prefer not to think of it as such, for no other reason than I like the idea of pasting things together. So, what do we contrast against that? Well, in pendulum versus quote-unquote triquetra, we're essentially at the top contrasting a negative 1 beat move with another negative 1 beat move. And in fact, the two poi heads are moving equal distances in the course of that move, which is kind of a cool side effect of it. If we were to take that same kind of example, we could oppose the triquetra, that is the base pattern, with something that moves the same distance. And since we already know from playing around with arc lengths that a one-petal inspin travels the same arc length distance as a triquetra because they're both 2-beat moves, we could say try to oppose that triquetra composite flower with that one-petal inspin. In this particular case, I'm going to take this from a split opposites hand path place, simply because it gives me a little bit more room to work with. I can separate out my hands instead of doing it the together way, which granted looks a little bit cooler, but we'll do a little bit. We'll sacrifice a little bit of vanity here for functionality. So these are the results. As you can see, they complement each other pretty nicely. There's a point at which the poi in the triquetra hand doubles in speed compared to the other hand, but it doesn't look that terribly much out of the ordinary. In fact, it's got a nice kind of balance to it. At least I think so. If we want to double our difficulty level, rather than taking a positive 2B move, we can take the negative 2B move, which is, guess what? That's right, a triquetra again, and try and contrast our composite flower now with a triquetra. This one's a little bit harder. The configuration I'm liking doing with this right now is the base kind of Star of David configuration, because then I can use my triquetra that doesn't change hand to essentially do a float across, while the other hand is increasing in speed, and thus give it a little extra time to be able to sort itself out. This one's a little ugly still, but bear with me. This is where I'm at with this right now, which is there you go. So, two fun patterns that come from monkeying around with how many petals a flower has. That is kind of dilating the frequency of the poi in relation to the hand. So, I hope you guys found this fun and interesting. I know I did, and I'm sure there are many more of these patterns to be uncovered. So, thank you for watching, and have yourselves a great weekend. Peace.